Hi, in this video Ken and I share our thoughts about Arracourt and the Battalion Combat Series by Multiman Publishing. Hi, I'm Richard Rindack. Welcome to the great game. We're at Ken's house.
Yes, game room.
Your game room inside your garage.
Yep.
So, the scene of many epic battles.
Yeah.
But this is the first time we're in front of the camera. And we thought we'd try this, just something different. But we just finished playing Arracourt, the Patton's Vanguard scenario. And we had some thoughts we wanted to share with you guys. So with that, let's talk a little bit about the game.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a game that we're talking about. It's part of the Battalion Combat Series. It's a one-mapper. It's got 5/8" counters, just one counter sheet of units, and 6 scenarios. So it's a pretty good introductory game, and I think it was intended as an introductory game for the Battalion Combat Series. It's also the latest one that's out, so it's got the latest rules to it. So I think my first comment about this is that I love this system. I really enjoyed it. I like the Battalion Combat Series. And there are a few things about it that make it kind of special. One thing is supply. You also have to keep your formations together. Unlike the chit draw system, you can activate the units you want. You alternate between, each side alternates activating their formations. And there are a few other factors, but which we'll get into in greater detail. But Ken, any overall thoughts about the system, about the game itself?
The Battalion Combat System's a good system. I like it for a few reasons. It doesn't have too many surprises in it, except for me, in some areas, the combat. How they integrate the combat's really nice. I like how they do that, the integration between the infantry, the armor, the support, how you can break your units into smaller units and send it out to support your units. Mm-hmm. I really like that. And I like to have a diversity of units and be able to put them in different places and decide how to deploy my troops. That's what I like to do.
One thing about combat, and it goes to the unit mix, is the difference between leg units and armor. Mm-hmm. And if a unit is solely armor versus a dual unit, which means it's got infantry and it's got armor as part of the unit, and they do different things.
Oh, we found that out.
And I really like that a lot. You can't just think of, and the game designer makes a point of it in the materials in the game. You can't just think of armor as a beefy infantry unit that could just go in there and take care of business. They act differently. You could roll up your tanks, you can engage, but you can't attack the way an infantry can do an assault to occupy a position.
It's the attack. You have the move up there, you move your guys. You can move up there the same, the infantry, the tanks. There are some Zona Control rules, but it's in the combat when you're interacting with the other unit and how you do that. Are you doing the engagement? There's a good chart in here. This one. It's called the attack type crib sheet. This one's good. It tells you whether you want to do an engagement, an attack by fire, a regular attack, a shock attack, and everything you need to do it. The costs and the types of targets. That drives a lot of the game for me.
Yeah.
Of course, the other part is what we are going to have to get into, which is the jumping of the trains and the HQs.
Well, that relates to supply, which a lot of games you have to deal with supply. You have even supply trains that you may have to deal with, but it's abstracted quite a bit. In this game, supply is, I think, a critical factor. It's important to have a MSR, main supply route. Main supply route. But there are 3 elements to that supply route. You've got your headquarters, which has to trace a legal route back to the combat train, and that combat train has to trace a legal route back to the source of supply. And
how you weave those together with your other ones
without mixing them,
of course, matters.
Without mixing them or overlapping them, or without encountering an enemy zone of control. And So you have to maintain that and not have it mixed. But at the same time, the one thing that you like to do against, you were playing the Germans, and every chance you had, you wanted to either jump the headquarters or jump the supply train, and you did actually get to do that in Arracourt against me.
That was one of my main things I loved to do. But why? Because I was so scared of it happening to me.
So you were
That's
protecting
why.
it. Yeah, you were protecting it. Your guys well. I left my guys a little bit more open, but anyway.
Is it that effective in the game, do you think? The whole jumping of HQs and then...
Well, what does it do? It affects the snafu roll.
Yeah.
So backing up a little bit, you pick a formation. So you really have to be conscious of your formations. Where are they in the map? What terrain are they assigned to occupy, right? But then, and unlike the chit pull, where you don't know which one's going to come up next, you can say, okay, I want this one next. You control it. However, you don't control it fully.
No.
You can activate it, but based on fatigue and other factors, you may or may not be able to get a full activation. You may even get a failed activation. So I think that adds a kind of a unique twist to the game that I really like. So
the penalty is the fatigue.
Yeah, the penalty is the fatigue. But if you jump the headquarters, or if the combat train is off the map, you get serious penalties against your snafu roll. Well, the snafu roll determines whether or not you can activate that formation, and how effectively you can activate that formation.
Might just get skunked.
Yeah.
That didn't happen too often.
Not too often, but once or twice. But also with Arracourt, the Americans start off kind of fatigued, and my guys got tired a lot. I think your guys stayed fresh for a while, the Germans did, but I had to worry about not getting over fatigued. And Arracourt has a special thing where if you get to fatigue level 3, there's 4 maximum. So if you get to fatigue level 3, in the assignment phase, you have to make a decision. Do I activate?
Yeah, you have to pick a lane.
Yeah, you have to pick a lane. But it's either, if you want to activate, you have to do it as a second activation, not as a first activation. So you're really risking not being able to activate at all. Or you do an enforced recovery activation.
That's done immediately.
Immediately during...
the other player knows that you've done that then.
Yes, and then that's it. You're done. Yeah. And if you're at fatigue level 4, you automatically have to rest. Yeah. You have no choice about the matter.
Makes my eyes wide thinking about it.
So, I thought that was a really interesting aspect of the game. So we talked a little bit about formations. You need to keep them together. You have to be careful not to mix them. What happens if you mix them? Again, it's a penalty to the snafu. And if you coordinate, even if you don't end up mixed, if one formation runs through another formation, both formations are coordinated, which again becomes a negative roll to the snafu.
The different types of attacks. Okay, engagements. Engagements we used a lot. That was when we were firing our tanks on tank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the tank on tank. That we used a lot. Attack by fire. Use that not as often, but that's a barrage against infantry. A regular attack. Did that occasionally when I had to push someone out of the hex. That's the best thing an infantry can do. An infantry unit can do that.
But now in attack, I noticed though that the attacker has a lot more chances of losing a step.
Oh yeah, it is, and they even I think somewhere in the rules they talk about which hex is best for what, and that says it's good for pushing guys out of hexes.
Yeah.
But what's the alternative for the infantry? They don't really have one. They got to do a regular attack. They can't attack by fire. They can't engage. They can't do a shock attack, which I didn't do that. I don't know if I did that once.
I did one.
I didn't quite get that.
And I wasn't sure it was necessary. It's basically I think basically you've got armor that wants to shoot and keep going.
Okay.
So
it's a drive-by shooting and then you engage them?
It's kind of like an overrun.
Okay. Destruction, barrage, did that lot. Recon, I don't know if we placed one objective by recon.
No.
Okay. Maybe it just didn't come up in this game.
It probably didn't. It just didn't come up. One thing I want to talk about is Zona Control.
Mm-hmm.
So we're big fans of the Mark Simonich games, which have the Zoc bonds. This doesn't have Zoc bonds, but it does have something that kind of works the same way. Namely, you can't go from one enemy zone of control directly into another enemy zone of control. You have to get out of the zone of control before you go back into it. And so effectively, it's almost more binding than a Zachbond, because you can have a unit in one hex and then 2 hexes away have another unit. So you've got 2 empty hexes in between them. But because each one is touched by a zone of control, you effectively block it like a Zachbond. So it creates...
Depends also the types of zones you have.
Exactly.
You can drive right through there with the tank.
Right. If you've got an AV zone of... If you've got an AV unit...
Yeah. That's why you need support.
Right. And you've got an infantry that does not have AV support, the AV can just drive right by it, right next to the guy, and just keep going. Another topic, there are some aspects of the game that I would say I wasn't thrilled about.
Okay.
So the first one was, I think the graphics could be better.
I describe them as cartoonish.
Yeah, they're... Compared to some of the maps that we've played with,
I expected a little bit more. Maybe my expectations are a little bit more, but I like tank silhouettes at this level.
Well, yeah, and so the unit counters are all numerical. They, some silhouettes would have been nice. A little bit better map design, but I would also say there are charts all over the place, and they're in different books. Yeah. There are freestanding charts. I don't know.
They're all
like
that same
sheets.
color, that sandy white, that sandy brown color and white. So they all look the same.
Yeah, but also, for example, you've got the series support book.
That's got.
Yeah, but you don't normally, you read it and you put it away. No, you need that because it's got a chart on the back here. And I remember for a while we were looking for the assignment chart.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's in here. What is it? Page 21 of the support
book.
The support book, and the rules kept referring to the assignment procedure chart. Well, it was here, but then you've got charts here, and you've got charts here.
They're facing. This is part of the thing is this one's facing this way, and that one's
facing up. I know.
Yes.
But anyway, there's one other thing that I wouldn't say it's a design flaw, but it caused me to scratch my head a little bit. So. The combat takes into account a lot of factors. For example, the action rating and whether or not you've got suppression, whether you've got an assist, whether you've got AV support. So there are a lot of factors that are considered when you're doing combat. And of course, in the game, fatigue is important, but it's only important when it comes to the snafu roll. But when it comes to combat, you could be down to your last guy, fatigue level 4, surrounded, out of command, and you're fighting at full effectiveness. And that just leaves me like, can't we account for that somehow in the combat modifiers?
What's another modifier? My goodness. You go to the chart, you say, hey, if you're 1, 2, or, you go to combat chart, if you're 1 or 2 steps, you're -1.
Yeah. Or
if you're 5 or 6 steps, you're +1.
Yeah. Yeah.
There.
Or fatigue. Yeah. If you're fatigue level 4, you're -1.
That's true. Yeah, fatigue doesn't matter either. You're.
I think fatigue should matter. Also, other factors that we've seen in other games, for example, morale is not accounted for in any way. And you know what? At the end of the game, my objections could be more in the nature of quibbles because overall, I really like the game.
I do too.
And I think that
it's good.
I think it should get wider acceptance, but. In terms of this game system, the Battalion Combat System, I really like it. And we're currently playing Panzer's Last Stand.
I like to integrate arms, and this game does a good job of that.
Yeah.
Do I have anything else negative? Well, I would prefer that the headquarters have a defensive value, so I don't have to commit a unit to them.
Yeah. At least a one factor.
Maybe I'm too afraid of it.
Yeah.
Maybe I was just too afraid of it. Oh my gosh, I got to protect them, so I had to keep a unit with them a lot. If they had an inherent combat of defense, that would be awfully helpful.
Yeah.
Other than that, the graphics are a little bit old. They're using the same graphics they've been using for a long time.
Yeah.
We bought the new one. I'll say we bought it. We each bought it.
Yeah, we each bought one.
We each bought one of these, and we each bought Panzer's Last Battles, which is right over there, because we like the thing. It's good. It's a thumbs up. I'm going to spend a couple $100 easy. Oh, okay, fine, whatever. Okay.
This is a great starter game.
Yeah.
So if you're getting into the system and you want a good starter scenario, this is it. You got a lot of tanks to play with,
Right.
and you've got infantry, and
It's a good mix.
I think it's a good mix.